Yeah. Well, we just entered 2010, and we're very excited about this year in terms of the whole smartphone and wireless data space and the wireless solution space. We think smartphones can be really big for enterprise this year, really for a combination of reasons. But fundamentally, enterprise, whether you're small business or large enterprise, we're continually looking for productivity enhancements, competitive advantages, and how to manage costs and how to really be more effective as an organization. And mobility is a big part of that. And smartphones really fits right into there in terms of the mobility solution to really drive business. So in the enterprise space, security is the number one issue, the number one criteria. And oftentimes when it comes to smartphones, it's often overlooked. People look at smartphones, look at the features and applications, but they don't worry about security. But for enterprise, that's absolutely number one. Because think about it, what are enterprise doing in terms of mobility? You're really allowing your executives and your workers to be out of the office, traveling around the region, around the world, and they're accessing very confidential, sensitive information for business. So security is absolutely critical, and it's the number one really matter in terms of criteria. And from our perspective, we definitely see that. Because of that, what we're finding is that in the smartphone space, people are starting to really become aware of that. And the various vendors and customers and whatnot, they're starting to really pay more and more attention to that. So we do feel that it is indeed improving in terms of security and manageability. But one other thing I should say, though, is that security and manageability is not really about just on a smartphone. Because for enterprise usage, it's really about solutions. And it's really about end-to-end solution. We need security from one end all the way to the other end. From the handset, security on the handset, over the air, over the internet, into the corporate, behind the corporate firewall, into the servers. Security's got to be everywhere. And we do see that it's improving, and we certainly see in the industry that's going to be continuing to be the number one thing. You know, CIOs, IT managers, that's what they're demanding as the first and foremost. So we need to deliver as an industry. That's a really good point. Obviously, as I mentioned, security is number one. You know, we've got to have security right across the board in the solution, in the smartphone, on the server side, right across the firewall, you know, right through the link. Very important from a security point of view. And it's got to be manageable. Manageable means that really you're deploying a range of smartphones to essentially a team or a series of teams that are mobile. And you got to make sure that an IT manager can manage that in a centralized manner and in a way that's secure, in a way that's flexible. The ability, if a user loses their device, it's very important for an IT manager back in headquarters, which may be in a different city or a different continent, to be able to remotely shut it down or change the password or wipe the data. Very important aspects to it. Or in terms of deployment, the flexibility of deployment for an IT manager. For instance, a lot of smartphones now have multimedia capabilities, cameras. And enterprise and organization had the capability from an IT perspective to be able to control that, to have various IT policies so that perhaps you make sure that the camera isn't working, the Bluetooth functionality is not working, Wi-Fi, multimedia, whatever it is. That's very important as well. And there's really a range of other very important criteria in terms of enterprise when they make a decision. There's business aspects, there's technology aspects, and there's organizational aspects. Other things that are very important is high availability. Ultimately, for an enterprise, smartphone usage, mobility, it's mission critical. It's got to work. Not just for the executive, but for your whole workforce and interaction with your critical information as well as with customers and partners. So high availability, always on, very important. Other aspects are very important, especially the trend in terms of smartphones. It's not just about voice mobility. It's really about data applications and solutions. So the platform, whatever you choose for the enterprise solution, has to be a platform where you can actually mobilize not only voice, but data applications, critical data applications that are tied uniquely to a company's business processes to maximize the productivity enhancements. So that's really critical as well. And I can talk a lot more about that, but fundamentally, if you have a Salesforce organization that you're mobilizing, you've got to have Salesforce automated type applications. If you have a field force, technicians, you got to have field force applications. You have executives traveling around the world, around a region, and they're mobilized. They're going to have to have business analytics, business intelligence. They got to know at the tip of the fingers on the smartphone what's going on with the business, metrics, so on and so forth. They got to be able to make decisions, make approvals, be able to direct teams, in a remote mobile fashion. All very important, and that's why the platform has to be able to handle that, to be able to extend beyond just basic core features like voice and email and messaging to a whole plethora of business essential applications that are tied to an organization's business processes. Well, smartphones is really in a growth trajectory. The adoption of smartphone right across society is becoming quite pervasive, and certainly in terms of enterprise, we see that as well. What that means is that clearly enterprises, whether small business or large enterprises, global enterprises, are looking more and more towards mobile data type solutions that include smartphones. And on top of that, typically that kind of mobile solution is really managed centrally by IT managers. But fundamentally, is that society, consumers are starting to really embrace smartphones, and they choose their smartphones, they purchase it in retail outlets and so on and so forth. They would like to also bring it into their mobile workforce and into the mobile business setting. So therefore, companies and IT policies must be flexible enough and security-minded enough to make sure that they have to make a decision whether they can actually incorporate that with your staff actually bringing in their devices and using it for corporate functions. Very important from that point of view. And another very key and exciting trend that we see is that enterprises are really looking at data applications. They're looking for more productivity and more competitive advantage. They want to do more with their mobile investments. They want to do more and leverage more of their IT investments behind a corporate firewall. So they want to mobilize, if they've made purchase decisions on CRM, ERP type IT software, that's really benefits their business processes and their overall operation of the organization, they want to be able to mobilize that. And what's going to happen really this year is that there's going to be an ongoing increase of interest and adoption of mobile enterprise solutions, whereby they can actually mobilize that beyond a corporate firewall into the mobile workforce. So data applications are going to be very important, and overall enterprise applications are going to be very important. Not just smartphone, but really about solutions.